For those of you that don't know, I live in between two army bases, basically two army ranges. So when I normally record a video, I often have to wait for things to calm down. Wait for a little bit of silence. There's no artillery going off or gunfire or anything like that. And tonight, unfortunately, I've waited for all that to happen and someone's just started setting off fireworks. So I do apologise. I'm in the garden. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'm quite safe. I'm not actually coming under fire. Well, not literally at least, although I may be coming under some verbal fire come the end of this video. That much is for certain. What I want to talk about is the Julen Lopetegui situation. For those of you that don't know, he has to win. Everton is a must-win game. It's another, I guess, another El Sacchio, isn't it, really? Because I think Dyche is probably on thin ice himself. Whether I'm not sure whether he has to beat West Ham to keep his job, probably not. But it's one of those. It's two managers under pressure, and well, I mean, it's come from the highest placed source in the club, which is basically that he's got to win. Lopetegui's got to win against Everton. But I think rather than do a video about all the recriminations on that, there's been a lot of anger. I was very, very agitated a couple of days ago, but I think having calmed down now, basically I've got 8 questions that I would like to ask the club. You have to excuse me if I keep on not making eye contact with you. I've written them down because that's, well, it's only professional to do so, and my memory's a bit crap. And these are the questions that I would like to put to the club, and particularly to those at not the tea lady, obviously, but those at the club who are part of the decision-making process. So question number 1 I would ask was, what was it that impressed you about Julen Lopetegui? Because this is what we've heard. We've heard that he impressed in interview, and that was one of the reasons why he was chosen above anyone else. That West Ham were so impressed with him. That I think he met with David Sullivan. I don't know if he met with David Sullivan at his mansion or whatever. He came to the club. I don't know. I would love to know what it was about that meeting, about what was so impressive with the man that made him stand out above and beyond any other candidates, that made you think that this is the guy. This is the guy that can do it. This is the guy that can take over from David Moyes and lead the club forward. And I think that's the first question I'd like an answer to. But that sort of leads on to the second part of my question, really, because my second question might answer the first. Because he was supposedly, when he had this interview, he had a PowerPoint presentation. He was able to, I guess, demonstrate digitally what his plans were for West Ham. I guess the style of play that he planned on implementing, how his tactics would work in the Premier League, and I don't know. I don't know. I'm just having to guess here. Was it about players that he wanted to bring in? So I guess my second question is, how far is what we're seeing now from the Julen Lopetegui PowerPoint presentation? How far removed from what we were digitally promised, or what was written on the whiteboard, or whatever it might be? How different is that now? Because I think that's really, I'd really like to know, because I suspect it was nothing like what we have now. And if that's the case, it would obviously go some way to explain why he's under so much pressure. Because whilst I understand that, you know, he has to win against Everton, it can't all be about results. If all you're waiting for is results, then it means you're not noticing the other things, and the smaller things that are going wrong at the club are basically happening at the same time. The third question I would like to ask is, did the same person who rejected Ruben Amarin also reject John Duran? Because there's two things that we know. Because basically, the club has told us. We know Duran wanted to come to West Ham. I know he's come out with some comments since, but we saw him. He was doing all that. Not only did he want to come to West Ham, he thought he was coming to West Ham. He thought the deal was very, very close to being done. So I can only assume that either his club and or Aston Villa said this deal is being close, is getting close. He felt empowered enough to give the old crossed hammers. We also know now that Ruben Amarin would have come to West Ham. Now, it doesn't matter whether you believe it broke down because of money or because of what the club said, it was too big a risk. he didn't have Premier League experience. He'd only done it in Portugal. Doesn't matter whether you think it's the money or that or a combination of both. We could have got him and we didn't. So we could have got Julen and we didn't. And we could have got Amarin and we didn't. Now, we don't know if Amarin's going to be a good coach yet. We don't know. I still suspect that Manchester United are a basket case of a club and it's going to be really, really hard for anybody to thrive there. But it looks like he's a very, very good coach. He's won 2 titles at Sporting, I think, now, and looks to be really good. And the reason I would ask, is that the same person, is because they appear to be two really bad judgment calls. And because I think he would have to be really crap to be worse than Julen Lopetegui has been this season. Because whoever did choose to hire Julen Lopetegui, it looks like they got it really, really wrong. Which brings me to my third question, actually. And the third question is, how long is too long to get it ready, to get a team ready, to get a team prepared? And why have we had to wait longer for Lopetegui than other new managers who have joined their clubs? Is that not a worry? Would you not concede? And this is what I would like to ask the club. Would you not concede that almost everybody else that's joined their club has done better? So I think looking at it, obviously, Kieran McKenna was already at Ipswich. Russell Martin was already at Southampton. Gary O'Neill was already at Wolves. If you start to look at the teams at the bottom, by and large, they were all, most of whom were in place last season. The new managers seem to be doing all right. So why has the one that we've got taken so long? And why have we not seen any improvements? That was a whopper. And why have we not seen any improvements yet? I think that's certainly a question. And if that's the case, was that part of the PowerPoint presentation? Were you told, look, this is going to take 3 or 4 months, and then the players will start playing my way? I suspect that was not the case, and I'm not looking to be tricky here at all. These are genuine questions, because I think if that's the case, then why would you even agree to somebody that wasn't going to be able to hit the ground running? Why can Lopetegui not hit the ground running, but other people can? It's clearly not backing, because I think the club have backed the manager. Whatever, we bought so many players, you can't level that. So I think I would ask that question. The fourth question I would ask is, I think, I'm on 4, I'm on 3. Whatever, we'll go with it. I think there's. I said there was 8. I think there's 9. Why is Premier League experience so important? I think this is what I wanted to ask, because whilst I think it was Alex Crook, who is the Talk Sport chief football correspondent, I think he said that the reason West Ham didn't get Amarin was because of money. The club turned around and said that's nonsense. We never had an agreement with him. We did not agree a deal. The reason we didn't get him was because we all, and I think when we all, I think it was saying Sullivan, Kretinsky, Noble and Stuyton all thought it was too risky. Now, I must say I don't believe that, but this is not what this video is about. That's not what this video is about. I'm going to take the club at their word on this. It was too risky. He'd only done it in Portugal, and he didn't have Premier League experience. Why is Premier League experience such a high currency within the people that make the decisions at West Ham? Do you not look at other managers, other coaches who come in at other clubs and think, does it not question your belief? Does Arne Slot, who obviously was linked to West Ham, and we could have got Arne Slot last season, by the way, is that not a myth buster? Do you not look at that and think, the old Premier League experience, is that my thing is not working there? That's weird. I think, do you not look at, for me, let's go lower down the pecking order, look at Iraola. That shouldn't work. By the rationale and by the rules that you use to choose a manager and recruit a manager for West Ham, if you're right, then Iraola should never have worked. But he has, and he's good. And he's far from on his own with these young managers who come in. Basically, why is it that you feel that having Premier League experience enables somebody to be a better manager than somebody who might just be the most excellent, upcoming young tactician, but they come from a different country. I'd just be interested to know. For me, it doesn't work. For me, it doesn't make any sense. So that would be another question. Question number 5. I think it's number 5. I'll lose count, but you get where I am with it. Has anyone at the club questioned the player roles? And what I mean by that is these interchangeable positions. I alluded to it in yesterday's video, like my total football video. These experimental tactics that sees, as I mentioned, I think. I mentioned the front three against Nottingham Forest. Lucas Paqueta on the right. Jared Bowen in the middle. And then Crescencio Somerville basically playing in a sort of tucked in inside left midfield position while Emerson was doing the sort of left wing work. Do you question that? I mean, it's far from that. Well, what about Edson Alvarez on so many occasions, so far out of position? And listen, he is a liability. Alvarez he's a fine player, a good player, but he's a liability. But why do you not question why he's being put in defensive situations where he's having to do desperate things to try and recover a situation? And I just wonder if you look at that and you ask questions of the manager. This is what I was saying, not just about results, but actually, nuanced things that are happening. You not look at it and think, well, he can't play there. That guy, why is he playing in that position? Would be a question I would ask. I don't know how it works at a football club. I don't know to what extent a coach has to sort of explain himself to the ownership, or did he have a Monday meeting after the weekend? I don't know. I'd be really, really interested to know what goes on with there, actually. I think question number 6, or wherever we're up to, is there any concern about differing transfer target styles? Let me just explain by that what I mean, and we'll go with Nicholas Füllkrug, but we could easily go that we chased Kyle Walker-Peters and ended up with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. They're very, very different. So the reason I ask this, I was expect if you're going to hire a coach and if he's presented a PowerPoint presentation to you, then you're very, very aware of the way he's going to play. Ruben Amarin, apparently, I've heard that Ruben Amarin is only coming in as a head coach at Manchester United. Dan Ashworth, I think that's his name, is going to be the director of football. Ruben Amarin has told Dan Ashworth the type of player he wants to play in his 3-4-3 formation. Whatever they may be, the individual players within that are going to have certain characteristics. So rather than saying, go and get that guy, he might say, go and get me the guy that is a really good man-to-man marker, and is a good set-piece taker and is fast. And he's going to, just get me someone that can do that. So it gives him a player type. And I think this is what I'm confused about. Why, when we miss out on a player, why do we then go and buy somebody of a different player type? This is weird. We've been doing it for some time, of course. I mean, a great example would be Danny Ings. We're completely unsuited. Completely unsuited to West Ham. I mean, you'd say Gianluca Scamacca was completely unsuited to West Ham, of course, as well. But I just find it weird why we go through different players, but let's use Füllkrug. So apparently we went for Samu Omorodion. Okay, I get it. Good finisher, powerful striker, a strong, athletic, gets his shot off early. So we decide not to go with that for whatever reason. Okay, cool. So we go for John Duran. Oh, okay. Athletic striker, gets his shot off early. Someone, strong. A similar type. Brilliant. Okay, that makes absolute sense. We don't get either, and we get Nicholas Füllkrug. Forget the injury. I don't want to kick the man when he's down, right? But target man, plays with his back to goal. Slow. Links play. This is different. This is a completely different type of player. So I would ask if that's any concern. Do you notice that? Do you know maybe you're not doing it yourself at the top level of the club, but do you notice that that's happening? Is that not a concern? Do you not question that? When one person says, I want Duran, I want Omorodion, and then, whatever, it might be the same person, it might be a different person. But when they say, hold on, I want Füllkrug, don't you say, hold on, this is totally different. What about the PowerPoint? What about the fast striker in behind? And I don't know what was said in the PowerPoint. But these are really, really contradictory and conflicting things that are going on here. I think I'd ask as well, are there too many cooks? And I know the answer to this would be, you look under Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool had a transfer committee. We've all got our ideas on who signed who, but as I would understand it, my take on it is, I think it's fair to say Lopetegui signed Kilman, Lopetegui signed Rodriguez, fair to say that? I don't know. I don't know about the fullback. Let's just go with that for the moment. Let's give him a couple there. Steiten signed certainly Guilherme, Todibo, Fulkrug. Be fair to say they were Steiten signings, would it not? And rumour has it that David Sullivan signed Crescencio Somerville. And there are others, but what it does, it paints the picture of, oh, everyone having a go. I'll have a go. I'll have a go at that. Can I have? Oh, excuse me. Did Mark Noble get a go as well? I mean, it sounds flippant for me to say it, and it sounds like a bit of a Mickey take. But I think, bearing in mind we've already established that 3 different people have had a go. Does someone else? Does Krasinski get a go? I don't know how it works, but is that not too many cooks? Is that not a muddle? Is that fine? Is that club policy, or is that just sort of accidentally? Does it happen like that? Because I'm obviously making a list here and just trying to, in a sort of hope that maybe somebody would start to question some of the really odd things that seem to be going on at the club at the moment. And maybe even put me straight on a couple and say, no, that's not the case. That's not the case, but that's not how we do it. You've got that wrong. Has anyone at the club, and this could go back and you can feed this, almost be a little subcategory if you want, of the PowerPoint presentation. Has anyone at the club noticed changing trends in the Premier League? I mentioned yesterday that Lopetegui had been it had become common knowledge that Lopetegui wanted a Premier League job. It was his dream. I understand it. There was something about the Premier League that just appealed to him. It's why after he lost the Wolves job, he stayed in the UK. And did I think he spent a lot of time studying West Ham? I do, but I also think he was studying the Premier League. I think he'd been studying it from afar for a long time. And whatever it was, I want to make this video about being horrible about anyone or really, because I just don't. I think the facts speak for themselves. So I can only assume that there was something about Lopetegui which made him think, my style suits that league. I've seen something. I wonder if you're thinking that. I've seen something in that league. And a lot of people say, don't they? A lot of people say that Spain is the most technical. Italy is the most tactical. And the Premier League is the most physical. I don't know what Germany is, but you've all heard it before. The pace of the Premier League. We hear that, don't we? When we get to major tournaments, our players are more knackered because of the pace of the Premier League. It's common. You've heard it lots of times. It's been trotted out. So was there something in the Premier League that he thought, I've got my system, old Lopetegui ball can cut through that. I can thrive here. Because it's something I started saying at the very start of the season. And, luckily enough, you do YouTube. And when you do YouTube, you've got things that are said on archive. I said on a few videos, it seems to have got faster. It seems to have got faster and it seems to have got more direct. And I thought about that. And it really, really became evident, obviously, when we played Chelsea. And I don't know if you've watched much of Chelsea at all, I certainly think, Caicedo's really come through. And I'm looking, a lot of teams have midfielders like that. I was watching, I know it's not a great time to use him as an example, because, just lost to Tottenham, but Morgan Rogers. I've sort of marvelled at him when I've seen him last season. Sorry, has that gone a bit fuzzy, the video, sorry. He's a sort of midfielder who West Ham just don't have. It feels like we're pedestrians. That it's an old style. It's a slower. It just looks antiquated. It looks like an old model of a car. It looks like it's like we're like the Samsung Galaxy of 5 years ago or something like that. We're just not up to the pace of it, and particularly in midfield. And it doesn't have to be, Morgan Rogers. I can't even remember the guy. That came on for Wolves at the weekend. I should know really. What's his name? It's not Niami. Lamina. I think it's Lamina. I think Lamina is his name. Not the best player in the world, but I just looked in the way he was turning, the way he was being athletic, the way he was sort of controlling the game. And even I start to look at a lot of these teams now, and I look at the pace and athleticism, not only in the middle of the park, but in the way that they have some really, really direct wingers, pacey, strong, athletic midfielders. And I look at us and think, not so great. And it's no surprise that we get overrun in midfield so frequently. And so I think there would be a question there. If you look back on that PowerPoint presentation, was it harking back to an older style of Premier League football? Has things moved on? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed the change in trends in the Premier League? And if so, have you discussed that with the coach? Because maybe it's just not tactical, and I think it probably is. I used to bang on for years and years on this channel, bang on about West Ham being slow West Ham. And we do have some quicker players now, there's no doubt about it. There was a point where, you looked and it was only Ryan Fredericks who was quick. And we have some quicker players now. But not loads, and certainly not in central midfield. So how did that happen? Why did nobody? I mean, when I say there's too many cooks, I guess too many cooks, lots of cooks could be a good thing, right? But how did nobody notice that no one in midfield had any athleticism? I actually quite like Guido Rodriguez, but he's not. Him and if you're going to put Alvarez in there, and sometimes Souček or Paqueta. I know Paqueta played on the right against Forest. You could probably have Rodriguez. You probably can have Rodriguez in there if there is an athlete in there. But who thought it would be a good idea to choose him and not have an athlete? I find that odd. Absolutely odd. And it brings it back to pace. And I think the last question, I don't know whether this is 8 or 9. I think I'll call the video 9 questions. 10 would be more punchy. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Before I get to the last question, there'll be something I've missed. I'll have missed lots. I'll be interested to know what you think. And I don't just mean Lopetegui out, get rid. I mean, honestly, what would you like? What would you like to ask? Not that it makes any difference. I'm not even sure the club will watch this, or anyone at the club. Some at the club probably watch it, but will anyone that makes any decisions watch it? I'm not so sure. But what would you like to ask? I think the last question that's really been intriguing me is there any truth that things are fragmented behind the scenes at West Ham? What I mean by that, well, it's quite obvious, but I'll just spell it out. That actually, the story that David Sullivan didn't want a director of football, and actually it was Daniel Kretinsky that insisted upon West Ham having a director of football, and obviously we're talking about Tim Steidten. So that would be area of conflict number 1. If you would concede that is a possibility, so let's just imagine for the sake of argument that is the case, it would then be fair to say, it's all guesswork, but can we then extrapolate forward and say that if Steidten is Kretinsky's man and Lopetegui is Sullivan's man, isn't that an incredibly unhealthy situation for the club, particularly given that one, or at least one, some would argue both, have been sniping and leaking things to the press to undermine the other? I'm talking about Lopetegui and Steidten here. I don't think Sullivan and Kretinsky are trying to undermine one another. Bloody focus that camera. Would there be any truth to that? Because that would be the ultimate problem. because it would probably mean, I try and put myself in each person's situation, but the interesting one is who they report back to. So all these questions that I've asked, maybe it would be about this Monday meeting. Well, that would be between Lopetegui and Sullivan, right? I used to think Krasinski wasn't involved at all, but Jack Sullivan confirmed this when he went on Dodge's podcast. He said that that Krasinski was the first one to interview Steiten. So, and it's easy to think Krasinski's off doing his buying up loads of companies in France and doing his Royal Mail stuff, and maybe, but not so much that he wasn't able to take an interest in West Ham and interview Tim Steiten. So, and we know that. I mean, that's a fact. I've got no reason to disbelieve Jack. If that's what Jack Sullivan said, why would he lie? I believe that to be the truth. So if Krasinski has interviewed Tim Steiten, is it then so unbelievable to go one step further and think that he then briefs him? I think he probably does. So I think it's safe to assume that Steiten briefs Krasinski, and probably Steiten briefs Sullivan as well, and Lopetegui briefs Sullivan. But the whole thing is very, very unhealthy. And I think, at best, it's a situation which sows the seeds of mistrust. And it does make me wonder, because earlier on, I mentioned that I wasn't sure if Ruben Amarin would succeed at Manchester United. It wasn't anything to do with Amarin. I think there's a reason why lots of managers, be they Moyes, Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, I can't remember the German guy's name now, but Solskjaer, obviously, Erik ten Hag. Are they all bad? I think probably not. I think it's a very, very hard club to manage, and I think anyone is going to struggle there. So it may well be that Ruben Amarin is a very good manager, but there's not an environment at Manchester United where he can succeed in long term. We won't know. You'll know in 3 years. They're not trigger happy with their managers. You'll know in 3 years whether Amarin's done a good job or not. You certainly won't know in 4 or 5 games. But that's why I was reticent to say he's going to be a success. But if I'm going to apply that logic to Manchester United, I'm going to have to apply that logic to West Ham as well. Because if we do have a situation now where we've got things are fragmented behind the scenes, then as much as it may well be that if Lopetegui loses against Everton, that his time is up, it really doesn't matter who West Ham want to bring in. Because if everything that I said is true, then whoever comes in, for all the reasons that I've mentioned, be they the recruitment of players or the disjointed nature of the board behind the scenes, we don't have an environment at West Ham where the new coach can come in and thrive anyway.